All yours, Brother Sean.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Of course, we are still in the state's case in chief, and at this point, Solicitor, if you'll call your next witness.
Thank you. State calls Lieutenant Marty Crane.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Crane.
Good afternoon.
Tell by your uniform that you were an employee of the Lawrence County Sheriff's Department.
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been with Lawrence County?
Since 1997.
Okay, you are now a lieutenant, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's uniform patrol?
Over a shift.
Okay, so you have a shift of deputies that work under you.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes it's night shift, sometimes day shift.
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been a supervisor there?
14 years.
You worked a lot of shifts with the department to this point.
Yes, sir.
Hundreds. That's a yes.
Yes, sir.
Lieutenant Crane, you had a young man working on your shift back in July 2011 by the name of Roger Rice, correct?
Yes, sir.
He was one of your deputies on your shift.
That night, yes, sir.
How long did you know Roger? If that's correct?
I had known him for a while when he worked at the detention center. He and I had interaction outside of work a few times.
Okay, you hired on the sheriff's office, you have to do a tour of duty at the detention center, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Roger had done that?
Yes, sir.
And when did he go to the academy?
I don't remember. It was maybe 6-8 months before the incident.
And he finished the academy, got a certification.
Yes, sir.
And the night of this incident, Lieutenant Crane, let me back up a little bit. You said you had interacted with Deputy Rice outside of work as well.
Yes, sir.
So you knew his family.
Yes, sir.
You know Stacy, his wife.
Excuse me. Yes, sir.
Okay, he has 2 children, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Boy and a girl.
Yes, sir.
How old were they when this happened?
I'm not really sure. They were small.
What kind of officer was Roger in those few months that you were able to work with him?
Great officer.
Okay. Did you ever have any concerns that he was the kind of guy that would kind of go off the rails and do something stupid?
Never.
July 13, 2011. Was Roger scheduled to work that night?
No, sir.
Okay. And why did he end up working that night?
I had a couple of officers that were out on vacation, and usually when we're shorthanded, we ask officers off other shifts on other rotations to fill in, and Roger volunteered.
So he volunteered to work for someone else that night.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to take you to around between 10 o'clock and midnight on that evening. Was there a call that came out involving Barrel State Road that night?
Yes, sir.
If you could tell the jury what that call, what the nature of that call was.
We had a call in reference to a disturbance at Mr. Brown's residence on Barrel State Road. I sent some units that direction to go down to handle the situation due to what had already occurred in Fountain Inn's jurisdiction. Those officers arrived on scene a few moments before I did, and Roger wound up being shot.
Okay, was there, you don't have any indication of the person in the house, who he was and what the situation was?
Dispatch had received a phone call from, I guess, a family member or someone stating that there were some folks there, and we had knew about the situation there in Fountain Inn, and we were advised to use caution. So that's why so many officers responded to that location at once.
Okay, and I guess the guys that were closest when the call came out to that location probably arrived first.
Yes, sir. I was still in Fountain Inn, with Fountain Inn City at the first incident location.
Okay, that's why it took you a little bit longer.
Yes, sir.
At what point where were you in relation to Barrel State Road when you heard the call on the radio from an officer?
I had just passed the Pilot gas station right around that area on Highway 56. I had come down 385 and got on to 26 and got off on Highway 56.
Okay, so at that point, Barrel State Road was only a very short distance away from that.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jury, Lieutenant Crane, what you observed when you pull up? And let me back up. Where did you park there when you pulled up?
I stopped in the middle of the roadway. There was some cars on my left. I'm pretty sure it was a Clinton car because their lights are red and blue. It was parked in the left lane, just past Annie Drive. So I stopped in the right-hand lane in the road.
Okay, and you were able to get out of the car quickly and get down to the...
Once I exited my vehicle, I went to the trunk and grabbed my patrol rifle, scanned the scene, located where Sergeant Garrison and a couple others were with Deputy Rice. I covered the house and made my way to that location.
Okay. And at that point, you said Sergeant Garrison, Lieutenant Robinson, and Clinton
Yes, sir.
had Roger pulled over to a different location.
Yes, sir.
Page 26. Does this look familiar to you? This
Yes, sir.
Lieutenant Crane, this was Lieutenant Robinson's car, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is that the point where you were able to get down to where they were trying to do CPR on Roger?
Well, at that point in time, they had gotten him behind the car. I made my way to the car. You see the spot. I can't tell what marker it is by the rear tire.
11.
That's where we positioned him. His head was towards the tire.
And obviously on the ground here is some blood.
Yes, sir.
And looks like there's also some equipment here.
Yes, sir.
Y'all have to get his gear off, essentially do CPR.
Yes, sir. I ripped his shirt open, his uniform shirt open. I ripped the buttons. Sergeant Garrison and I removed the front panel of his vest. I could see he was bleeding, but I wasn't sure from where. He was already unresponsive and struggling to try to breathe. And we removed the front panel of his vest, and I was going to initiate CPR.
Is there anything you were saying to Roger at that point to try to communicate?
Yes, sir. I was shaking him and smacking him in the face, telling him to stay with me, answer me. Where was he hit? I just was asking him all kinds of questions. Of course, he was unresponsive. He had already had.
Take your time.
He already had blood coming from his nose and his mouth and in his ears and things like that. At that point in time, my concern was trying to do CPR so he could so he could have air, breathe, and try to find where the bleeding was actually coming from and stop it.
Okay, you said before that there was a bullet that actually fell out.
Once we removed the front panel of his vest and we moved it out of the way, I went down to do compressions on his chest, and I felt a whomp kind of right in the chest area. So I took out my pocket knife, and he had on an undershirt, and I cut the undershirt. And when I cut the undershirt, I located a bullet, which Sergeant Garrison took and put in his pocket. And then at that point, that's when I began doing chest compressions and mouth to mouth.
And at that point, Deputy Rice had been unresponsive, but he was still trying to breathe.
Yes, sir. And then when I started the mouth to mouth is when he stopped breathing.
Lieutenant Crane, did you have a body camera on that night?
Yes, sir, I did.
It was able to document some of what you just testified about?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, having it already been admitted into evidence without objection as subject to redaction, that we would offer Statements 82 publishing.
All right, subject to all previous reports.
I believe we'll be playing 3 minutes.
The first 3 minutes is what's allocated left.
Lieutenant Crane, right where we just cut it off there, that's EMS had been able to get there and they were starting to attend to Roger at that point. Yes.
That's correct.
After that point, Lieutenant Crane, obviously when the scene was secure, there were other people that came in and took over the investigation after that.
Yes, sir.
Did you go to the hospital?
I did.
And ultimately, the doctors at the hospital declared that Roger was deceased.
Yes, sir.
Pay the court's bill.
Yes.
I know this has been very difficult for you today, Lieutenant Crane. Thank you so much for being here and for your service to our community. Please answer any questions.
Any questions? Very brief. Go ahead.
I'm sorry I have to ask you some questions under these circumstances, but I just want to cover a couple of things. And I
Yes,
know
sir.
it's emotional for you. Before you got there, you had information initially about what Vinny had done in Fountain,
Yes, sir.
and that he was possibly suicidal.
Yes, sir.
And you had information at a little bit later that there were people in his front yard,
Yes, sir.
and that was family members, included family members from each side of the family.
I wasn't sure. I just told there were people there.
And you were the shift supervisor that night,
Yes, sir.
and Roger Rice worked on your shift.
He worked on another shift. He came in that night on his day off and worked. Yes.
He was working on that.
Yes.
Yes. And, of course, you knew him both inside work and outside work.
Yes.
But he was a good man
Yes, sir.
and a good father,
Yes, sir.
and a good officer.
Yes, sir.
And he was professional.
Yes, sir.
And he's the type of guy that, even knowing what Benny had done, he would have protected Benny from people in the yard.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I know it was hard to be here, but I appreciate you answering my question.
So, Frankie, you can step down. You're free to stay or go.
Thank you, sir.
Call your next witness, please, Solicitor.
Thank you, Your Honor. State Call Lieutenant or Sergeant Matt Beal.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am, I do. All right.
Good afternoon, Sergeant.
Good afternoon, Solicitor.
You work for the Lawrence County Sheriff's Office.
Yes, sir, I do.
How long have you been there?
9 years in August.
Currently, you are the lead investigator with the narcotics team.
I'm a sergeant in Narcotics Division, yes, sir.
And what other roles do you play there at the Sheriff's Office?
I'm currently the commander of our Special Operations Response Team, which we call SORT. It's also known as SWAT Team.
And have you been part of the SWAT team for a number of years as well?
I've been part of a SWAT team going on 12 years now.
Currently, you supervise the SWAT team as well.
Yes, sir. Currently have a 12-member team that I supervise.
Sergeant Beal, it's going to take you back to July 13, 2011. You have good memories of that, or you able to recollect that night very well?
Unfortunately, yes, sir.
you have occasion as part of the SORT team to get called out to an incident location near Clinton?
Yes, sir. That night I was, at the time, I was the assistant commander of the SORT team. Yes, sir.
And where was that, where you responded that night?
Barrel Stave Road in Clinton. I received a phone call from our dispatch advising that one of our officers had been shot.
Take the time, sorry.
Our dispatcher advised that, we had an officer down and that we needed to respond. Yes, sir.
Now, this location on Barrel State Road, it's close to Clinton, but it's inside the jurisdiction of Lawrence County.
Yes, sir.
Clinton officers also responded to assist.
Yes, sir.
And so there were a number of law enforcement officers from the county and from Clinton City already there when you arrived, correct?
Yes, sir.
When you arrived there at Barrel State Road at this incident location, can you tell the jury what was the situation you got?
When I arrived, I'd gathered my gear. I'd grabbed my what we call our tac vest. It's an oversized vest. It's a little bit larger than a normal duty vest. I'd grabbed all my gear, my assault rifle, and when I grabbed my things, I noticed that the ambulance was probably maybe from here to the back of the courtroom from where I parked my vehicle, and I noticed that there were some paramedics inside. So I walked up to it. I knew that one of our officers had been shot. I just didn't know who.
Sergeant Bill, did you know Roger Rice before that night?
Yes, sir.
You worked with him?
Yes, sir.
And, you would work cases with him. He was the patrol officer, right?
Yes, sir. Every time I seen Roger, he always said, "Hey, man, I want to do what you do." Being a narcotics investigator, he said, that's my intentions in my law enforcement career. That's what I want to do. He'd always have a few stories to tell me, and I try to help him out and lead him in certain directions, and just giving him a little bit of advice of how to go on about the narcotic side of law enforcement, I would say.
Kind of taking him under your wing.
I tried, yes, sir.
And in the short time that he had been an officer, was he a good officer?
Probably one of the best you ever come across. He loved his family. That's the first thing he would always say, "I'm here because of Stacy. I'm here because of my kids." Because I even joked with him that night. I told him, I said, "Man, you work all the time."
Sure.
Sergeant Bill, let me back up a little bit to where we were before.
Yes, sir.
And certainly, you knew Deputy Rice well, but at the time you come up to the ambulance, you knew they were working on an officer in there, but you don't know who it is.
I didn't know at the time who it was, no, because there were several paramedics inside. Yeah.
And at that point, there's supposedly Benny Brown still in his house, right?
Yes, sir.
And he had already come out and shot the gun.
That's what I was being told. Yes, sir.
So you still had a violent situation.
Yes, sir.
And as a member of the SWAT team, your primary goal at that point was to get whoever may be armed and dangerous under custody.
Yes, sir. I met up with Lieutenant Oppier that night, and he advised that we had a barricaded subject in the house, and that he had already had several other officers take point around the house, and I took up point with him in front of the house.
And were you getting any intel at that point about communication with the defendant, Benny Brown, in the house?
I was probably there maybe 2 minutes, and was advised by dispatch, hearing over the radio, that our dispatcher was telling us that Benny, the subject, had made contact and was wanting to give himself up, but he couldn't due to him being shot. I didn't know where he had been shot. All they had told me that he had been shot and was willing to give up.
Okay, so he did have communication, call 911, talk to one of y'all's dispatchers?
Yes, sir.
And that call of 911 was made part of the record of the case, correct?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
Now, the statement offer states 75. The 911 call to Lawrence County.
You may publish without objection.
Lawrence County 911, what is the address of your emergency?
545 Garrison.
What's the matter?
We got a big thing going on right here now.
What's going on?
I can't get up to get to the door. There's a lot going on. That's happening in the damn air.
What's your name?
Benny Brown.
Who?
Benny Brown.
Benny Brown?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and they shot you where?
In the air.
And you're not able to get up there to the door?
No, ma'am. They said that door. I did. They said I've been out there. You call one of them, come over and get me. I tell you what, I can try to call over to the door. Just call one of them, tell them.
Well, hold on. Stay on the phone with me, all right?
Okay.
And, is your phone number 981-1697?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I need to make sure that I can get back in touch with you if something like
Well, I'll
this.
stay on the phone with you. I'll make it to the door. I'm gonna put it down. They already got shot. Shit, I ain't gonna last too long. I don't believe y'all.
One more thing.
You hear me?
214 Central. I'm going to make those arrangements for you, okay? You just stay on the phone with me.
Okay.
Hey, boy, I got Mr. Benny Brown on the phone. He's advising that he's not able to get up to go to the door. That he wants Leon to come on in and get him.
Tell him I can make it over there and open it up. I hate push it up, but I can make it over there and open it.
He's wanting to come out peacefully at this time. And I said he's not going to shoot anybody.
You know what's going in there. When they shot me in my hand, I don't know what that thing was.
Okay. Well, you stay.
I can't make it to the door open it, and they can do what they got to do.
Listen.
I just need to get it off, so I'm leaving like hell.
Listen, there's an officer that's going to talk to you over the intercom, and you need to listen to his
I
instructions.
heard him the first time.
You heard him? Okay. He's advised.
I hear him now, but I can't hear what you talking to him talk.
Okay, go ahead. I'm going to be quiet unless you need me, okay?
Okay. Tell him I'm coming over the door and don't be damn shooting at this shit.
They're not.
I know how that's up.
They're not. I'll stay on the phone with you.
Let me just get my damn radio. Oh.
Just go slow.
I'll get up there and try to play away. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I'm going to have to put the phone, I'm going to hold it down and try to want to get up. You?
They're talking to me.
I can't make it no further.
He's advised
We can do it, get
further.
after you do it, get to the door, they can pay you back.
Can you lay
I
down?
can't get no further. You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. What are you doing right now? I mean, the position you're
Stand
in.
there, hold.
Can you lay down? Just get on the ground. Just lay down.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
I will put the phone down now.
Okay. I'll stay right here on the phone.
Well, I gotta put the phone down too.
Okay.
Bye.
Sort of feel shortly after this, how does Mr. Brown, can you describe to the jury how the defendant comes out from?
After we were advised by dispatch that he couldn't make it any further, normally in a situation like this, we would want the subjects to come to us. After he couldn't make it towards us, we approached him. He was laying, there was a broken screen door. He was kind of laying through it. Myself and Lieutenant Hopfier, at the time we seen his hands, you know, he was giving himself up. We grabbed Mr. Brown, one on each arm, and we pulled him through the glass, down the stairs, and right in front of the stairs there. I believe it was either, I'm believing it was Officer Nolan with the Lawrence Police Department and Sergeant Garrison placed him in handcuffs.
At this point, was the defendant saying anything?
Once they secured him, going back to our SWAT training, we don't know we have to eliminate all our threats. We wanted to make sure there was no one else inside the house. We normally don't listen to what everybody else says. We got to go see for ourselves. So myself, Sergeant Garrison, Lieutenant Hopfier, we did a protective sweep of the house, and it probably took 10 seconds, I would imagine, and that would probably be exaggerating a little bit. And then we came right back out, just to make sure there wasn't nobody else in the home.
Okay. And nobody was in there.
No, sir.
When you come back out the front door, did you have any interaction with the defendant at that point?
Mr. Brown was saying something, and I don't remember what he was saying. I was angry. So while he was talking, I told him that he needed to be quiet, and I advised him of his Miranda rights. Advised him that he needed to remain silent. Anything he said could be used against him in a court of law, and that he had the right to have an attorney, and that he needed to be quiet.
And after you read him his rights, or
Yes.
you spoke them to him.
It was verbal.
Did he appear to understand what you were talking about when you were talking to him?
Yes, sir, he did. He was. I asked him if he understood, and he acknowledged that he understood.
He answered in the affirmative.
Yes.
After that, did he say anything after he was
I don't. There was several officers there, and I don't know who. But there was a comment made asking him if he knew what he had done, and his response was yes, he knew what he did.
Okay, so the response to the question was, yeah, I know what I did.
Yeah, I know what I did. Yes, sir.
Now, at this point, you weren't interviewing him, so to speak.
No, sir. I didn't have any questions for him.
Nobody was pressuring him to say anything.
No, sir.
In fact, you told him he had the right to remain silent.
Yes, sir. Actually, then called for our SWAT medic to help render aid due to the situation. I mean, we tried to get him some help because we knew he had been shot.
Okay. So at that point, he's being worked on when he's talking there later.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Peyton from Fountain Inn was there with y'all at that time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And there were others around that witnessed you advising of his Miranda rights?
There was several officers, like I said, Lieutenant Hopfier, Sergeant Garrison, Detective Payton, Lieutenant Crane. There was numerous officers there. Because once we had done the protective sweep, in our minds, the threat was over. Mr. Brown was in custody.
Now, did EMS come rendering?
They did. Yes, they did.
And about how long did it take EMS to get rendering?
If I'm not mistaken, I think EMS was already standing by. I would imagine long as it took them from get to the road to the maybe 2 minutes, maybe. And
So once they knew the situation was safe, y'all gave them.
we gave them the thumbs up. Yes.
Straight towards the north. No further questions at this time, so please answer any questions. That's
Yes, sir.
Sergeant, I've only got a couple of questions for you, so I'm just going to stay over here.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to have to talk to you this difficult time, but I just have a couple of questions, okay?
Yes, sir.
You were the officer who read Benton's Miranda rights,
Yes, sir, I was.
and that was right after you cleared the house.
The protected suite, yes, sir.
And you said he was saying something, he was trying to say something, but you don't remember what they were.
I don't remember what those were. I just knew that he was saying something, and based on my, on my experience, when subjects that we're dealing with start talking, you want to advise them that they have those rights.
Sure. And you heard on the 911 phone call recording that Ben used the phrase, I know I messed up. Do you remember if he said something like that to you?
I can't recall what exactly he said. I don't want to speculate on anything he said, other than the statement that he made. I do remember that's pretty etched in my mind.
And that was another officer, but you don't remember who.
I don't remember what officer, because I had my focus on Mr. Brown.
And your recollection of the question was, do you realize what
Yeah, it wasn't a specific question. It was more of a, do you realize what you've done? I guess in total in the entire evening.
Right. Okay. And he'd already said that to the 911 dispatcher who messed up.
Yes, sir.
And were you there when you were angry?
I was very angry.
And you walked away from the situation because you felt very angry.
I did. Once I read the rights and he made the statement, I become livid and I had to take a deep breath and step away.
Okay, and you weren't there when Officer Plaxico spoke to Benny about him shooting the deputy.
Like I said, there were several officers. I don't remember any conversation, with specific officers.
And when you walked away, that wasn't in the direction of the ambulance where they eventually put Benny, was it?
No, sir, it was not.
So you didn't see Tyrone Goggins speak to Benny?
I remember seeing Lieutenant Goggins, but I don't remember him actually speaking directly to Mr. Brown, no.
That's all I have for you, sir.
Thank you.
Nothing to refer.
Sir, thank you. Oh, yeah. Stay close, Tyrone, guys.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony about you in this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do, ma'am.
Okay, Tyrone, you were with the Clinton Department of Public Safety.
That is correct.
All right. How many years have you been there?
Approximately 18 years.
Okay.
were you on call the night of July 13, 2011?
I was not on call, but I did receive a call at my residence that night,
And what was that call in reference to?
stating that officers were on the scene on Bath State Road and an officer had been shot.
Did you have any indication about Peaches Kingsborough and the Fountain Inn aspect of this case?
I had knowledge that someone else probably was shot prior to the shooting on Bear State.
Okay. But your purpose of responding to Barrel State was Roger Rice had already been shot at that point? Is that the call that went out?
The call came up exactly. We had Clinton City officers there, Lawrence County officers there on the scene, and then an officer was shot. I wasn't sure if that was with Clinton City or Lawrence County at that time.
Okay. You didn't even know the identity?
No, sir.
And the address is 545 Barrel State?
To my knowledge.
Okay. Is that, to your knowledge, in Lawrence County?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. And when you got there, was Deputy Rice still on the scene?
He was still on the scene when I arrived, yes.
Okay. And where was Benny Brown?
From my understanding, I was told that he was still inside of the residence and had barricaded himself in.
Okay. At some point, did the ambulance take Deputy Rice away from the scene?
They did, yes.
And do you recall at some point Mr. Brown surrendering?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Were you there when he was taken out of the house?
Yes.
Okay. When did you first have a chance to speak with him?
Benny Brown was placed inside of the EMS unit, and I approached the EMS unit after the house was cleared, and from the side door of the unit, and stepped in. I even stood by the door.
And what was the purpose of that?
Just to see if there was any assistance needed inside of the unit.
What happened when you stepped inside the door?
When I stepped inside of the door there, Benny Brown blurted out to me to tell that officer that I didn't mean to kill him. I didn't mean to shoot him.
Did you know Benny before this?
I was born and raised here in Clinton, so there's very few people that I don't know.
Okay. And so did he call you, did he say, Tyrone, I got something to say, or did he call you to him?
As I recall, he said, Tyrone, tell that officer that I didn't mean to shoot him.
Okay. So at that point, he was aware that he had shot an officer?
Yes, he was.
Did he offer any explanation of why he had done that?
He did.
What did he say?
I actually recorded it with my cell phone. I did a video recording, video and audio recording of what he said. First, I asked another officer, had he been advised of his Miranda warnings once he blurted out to me to tell that officer I didn't mean to shoot him. At that point, I asked him what did he want me to tell that officer, and he stated that I'm so sorry if I could take it back. I wish I just had killed myself like I started to. And stated when I looked out that door and I thought that was my in-law standing out there, that one that start all this damn trouble, that's who I meant to fuck up. He said, I'm going to be honest with you. So I asked him, who is your in-law? And he stated, no, sir, I'm not. And he kind of shied away from answering who his in-law was. But he went on to say, she keeps stuff going on in my family. And he stated, we moved out here 6 miles from Apple Orchard. Me and my wife used to stay on Apple Orchard, and we moved out here, and that woman just keep stuff going.
Okay. So he indicated he intended to mess up a sheep.
That's correct.
He said that woman keeps things going.
Yes.
Okay. So he's indicating that some in-law who is a she that has been interfering with his relationship with Peaches.
That's how I took it. Yes, sir.
All right. And you recorded it with what? Like an iPhone or something?
Yes, the department issued. I can't remember at that time what we had, a BlackBerry or the iPhone. We've switched a couple of times, but it was a smartphone.
Have you seen a exhibit where, I guess, the audio portion has been transcribed on video?
I've seen the video, but I haven't seen the transcription of it.
Okay. Can I show you one? And because we have got pre-marked in states 79. That's the cell video. But I want to mark an additional one that's got some transcription on it.
No objection.
Okay. Is that 10, states 102? 102. I'm going to introduce what's now been marked as states 102.
Hold on 1 second.
Oh.
You good? She's got a sticker for 102, so get the exhibit letter.
What you want me to tell you? What you want me to tell you? I can take it back, man. I wish I could see it like a story. And you know, when I'm looking at that door and I'm going to my ear all the time, I'm going to show all the damn door. That's who I get the fuck from. You know what I mean? Who is that? Who is that?
Hey, can you take this phone, please, right quick? Because it's all needed. It's going all over there.
Big man. 6 miles from Afro. Then I went to your Afro. And we moved out here, man. That woman just keeps going. Well, what else was it for?
I got to get hold on because that one's been named out.
I didn't worry about all that. Okay, I'm back there. I'm going to 2 or 3 of my damn touchdowns out there. They'll go out there.
Okay. So he's indicating a sheet, an in-law that is a sheet.
Yes. He also said that woman.
Okay. Do you know Peach's mother, Minnie?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see her at the scene that night?
No.
Okay. What about Peach's sister? Or aunt, rather?
If she was there, I didn't notice.
Okay. Did, at any point, did he mention, just use his language, did he mention wanting to pluck up any males who were there?
No, he did not.
Rico, did he say anything about intending to shoot Rico Kingsborough?
No, he did not.
Did he tell you he meant to shoot at Chris Brown?
No, he did not.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Tyrone. Please answer any questions Mr. McGuire has for you.
Thanks, sir.
Officer Goggins, Benny actually starts off by saying, Tyrone, tell that officer I did not mean to shoot him.
That's right.
And you were probably about 50, 75 feet away from the front of the house where Ben came out and was arrested.
That's approximately the right distance. Yes, sir.
And that's about from here to the back door, so.
Yes, sir.
You couldn't really hear what was going on where Benny was arrested.
No, I could not.
But you saw him being taken out of the house,
Yes,
placed in handcuffs,
that's right.
some officers around him,
Yes.
saying things to him, but you couldn't hear what they were saying.
Yeah, I don't recall it. I didn't hear anything.
Do you remember Sergeant Beal being next to that?
He may have, but it was many officers there.
It was a hectic situation.
Yes.
There was a lot of stuff going on, right?
Right. Had radios going off.
Some people were yelling, some people were shouting, some people were talking, some people were running around, radios going, that sort of thing.
There was a lot of activity going on.
And do you remember Officer Nolan being by Benny's cell?
No, I don't recall.
Okay. And you couldn't hear what Sergeant Veal was saying to Benny?
I couldn't hear what any officer near him was saying.
Okay. And do you remember a moment when Officer Plaxico went up to Benny and talked to him for a short bit?
No, I don't recall.
You didn't see that?
No, sir.
You're not saying it didn't happen, it may have happened, you can't remember.
Right.
And when Benny starts talking to you about who he was shooting at, he starts off with the one who started all that trouble out there, right?
Yes, he stated that, and I have my notes of the recording here. He stated that when he looked out the door, and I thought that was my in-law standing out there, that one that started all this damn trouble, that's who I meant to fuck up. And he stated, I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay, that's right. That's the starting point, right?
Right.
And you interviewed a number of witnesses and people with, I think, Agent Debbie Jones. Remember that?
Did I, in this case, particular case, did I interview a number of witnesses?
Or witness statements that Debbie Jones was taking?
I don't recall.
You've since learned that there was trouble out there in front of Benny's house, right?
I've heard rumors out there. I never confirmed any of that because I never participated in the actual investigation of it.
Okay, so reports indicating that Chris Brown had a gun, Rico had a gun, you haven't seen those?
No, I don't recall seeing those reports.
Okay. Or that a gun was recovered from Chris Brown, you haven't seen that report?
I've heard afterwards that there was a gun recovered, but I didn't see it.
Okay, you didn't approve those reports?
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir.
Okay. What about reports indicating that there were shots fired before Benny shot? Have you seen any of those reports or statements?
No, sir, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Ben Quantagini, does it sound familiar?
Nah, I don't even know that name, I'm not sure.
All right, that's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you. So,
I'm sorry, I didn't stand up quick enough. Are you aware of any physical evidence whatsoever that would indicate shots have been fired before law enforcement arrived at the scene?
No, I wasn't involved in the investigation at all. I was just there to assist Lawrence County. At that time, the only evidence that I'm aware of is this video that I recorded myself, where he stated that he shot the officer.
And did Benny tell you anything about people shooting him?
No, he never mentioned anybody shooting at him.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Joseph.
Sir, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right next witness.
Hannah Price, young.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony about you in this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes, ma'am.
Hannah, back in 2011, July of 2011, you lived at 37 Annie Drive in Clinton?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And just to be clear, I think you did give a statement at the time.
Yes, sir.
And your last name at the time was?
Iusti.
I-U-S-T-I?
That's correct.
Okay, but it's Hannah Price now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And 37 Annie, we look at state 76. While he's pulling it up. Oh. This is 545 Darrell State. And that's Darrell State Road. Annie Drive.
That's our driveway.
Do I know?
That's our driveway.
Oh, okay. And are you the only home that's situated off of Annie Drive?
No, sir. My in-laws are at the end of it behind our house.
Okay. got a really good picture. If you look, there's the Vandy Drive runs up the side 545 barrel stage. You're going to be somewhere back in here.
A little bit more to the left.
You're just right off the driveway, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's situated, I guess, for lack of a better description, behind 545 barrel stage.
Kind of category.
So
Category.
if you look out your front door, you would kind of be looking at the back left of Benny Brown's house.
That's correct.
Did you know Mr. Brown?
I did.
Did you know Peaches came from?
Not as much as I knew Benny.
Okay. In July, did you know of anyone else living there besides Benny?
The kids, I mean, I saw kids and stuff playing in the yard. I've seen Peaches come and go, but can't say whether or not they were living there or not.
Okay. That night, July 13th, do you remember that night?
Yes, sir.
Back in 2011?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember what you were doing?
I was in the bed watching the 11 o'clock news because I had to go to work the next morning.
Okay. And boyfriend lived there too? Your husband now?
Yes, sir.
Fiance at the time?
He was asleep beside me.
Okay. And if we're looking at your house, where's y'all's bedroom situated? Is it to the front right corner?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that would be, I guess, the corner of your house nearest 545 barrel stage.
You're about right there.
And you have windows in your bedroom?
We do.
You said you had your TV on.
Yes, sir.
At what point did you become aware that something was going on next door?
I can't say what time for sure. I want to say it was right at the beginning of the news, but I'm not positive on that.
What happened?
I heard like a group of cluster of shots. It was maybe 2 or 3. And it was close enough where it, scared me. And I got kind of down on the floor beside our bed and trying to wake my husband up at the same time. And he woke up and was like, what is it? There's nobody shooting. And then about that time, more shots. But it was about the same amount as the first couple.
Okay, so you hear a cluster of shots, and then a pause, and another cluster of shots?
That's right.
So 2 distinct clusters of gunshots.
Mm-hmm.
And before those 2 clusters, had you heard any other gunshots here next door?
No, sir.
Okay. It was just those very distinct.
Yes, sir. They were almost identical.
Almost identical?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just loud.
They were the same each time.
Okay. And then did you look outside after that?
We did.
What did you see?
The officer is pulling Deputy Rice behind his vehicle.
Okay. Did you see blue lights?
A lot of blue lights. We saw those before we looked out the door.
Say that one more time.
We saw the blue lights before we looked out the door. When I turned the TV off, they were coming in the window.
Okay. As soon as you turn the TV off after the gunshots, you can see them flashing through your window.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have your window blinds open?
Well, we have black curtains and they're closed.
Or you had blackout curtains?
Well, I mean, they were not completely put together, but yeah, they were pretty much closed.
And you can still see the blue lights coming in through those?
Yes, sir.
We talk about the kind that...
They're just black. They're not blackout.
Okay. Black curtains, they were drawn closed, and you can still see the blue lights coming through. And about... Do you know about how far your house sits off the barrel stage?
No, that's a hard question.
Well,
I know how far his car was from our front door.
about how far?
I would say 30 to 40 yard feet.
Yards or feet? What do you think?
Feet.
Okay. Like, so about the distance between me and that back door?
Mm-hmm.
And you say yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, Hannah, thank you. That's all the questions I have for you.
You remember giving States? The law enforcement?
The night that it happened? Yes, sir.
I'm going to hand you that and let you just look at that for a second while I look for a photograph over here. You had a chance to look at that? Okay. I might ask you some questions about it in a minute. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 25. Is that your house?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Bentley, could we put State's Exhibit 25 on the screen? Can you see that all right from where you're at?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's the same photograph that I just showed you, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is this your house that's depicted here?
Yes, sir.
And this white car, the one closest to your house, is that the one that you just said was 25 or 30 feet from your
I
property?
said 30 to 40 feet.
30 to 40 feet, thank you. And that's the one that you saw them bring the officer behind?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if you go over to the left, you see that shed there?
Yes, sir.
Is that getting into where Benny's property is?
It actually is on the property line.
It's on the property line?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it kind of sits back behind Benny's house a little bit there.
Right on the side of the garage, I think.
Right,
Because it's still there.
If it's still there, right?
Yeah.
But the garage would be over there.
And it's on the side of the house. Yeah.
And it sits sort of beside the garage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, of course, when Benny was living there, you knew him, right?
Yes, sir.
And you and your now husband would interact with him.
Yes, sir.
And you would see him playing with his children.
And ours.
And your children.
Mm-hmm.
And your children and his children played together.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it? A yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I asked you to look at your statement. In that first line, does that refresh your memory about what time it was?
Yes, sir. I guess. This was written at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was stay up till Sled got there.
Okay. So it says 11:40, and that would have been, I guess, not long into the news program, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. And you've already been asked questions about this, but you described 2 clusters of gunshots, right?
Yes, sir.
And there was some separation between these 2 clusters, wasn't there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the first cluster, after that, you said you had to wake up your boyfriend, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
it?
sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I don't mean that. It's just
I
this
know.
lady. Yeah. We're trying to help her. So you hear the first cluster. I think you told the solicitor that you got down on the floor.
As I was waking him up.
And you were waking him up. And so there was a pause in between where you were waking him up.
Yes, sir.
And y'all actually had a conversation about whether there had been gunshots.
No, I wouldn't call it a conversation. It was maybe 2 statements between the 2 of us, and then the next cluster started.
Okay. But you all were able to pass, you all were able to have that exchange of statements.
Yes, sir.
All right. And then it was the next cluster.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it wasn't until after that second cluster that you saw the blue lights through your window.
That would be right.
Okay. I know this was a long time ago, and I know this was, probably a very difficult thing for you at the time, but thank you for answering our questions today.
Just to be clear, those 2 clusters were relatively close in time.
Yes, sir.
Can you,
Within 30 seconds of each other.
okay, one cluster and then 30 seconds?
Yes, sir.
30 seconds or less?
Probably is. As much as I can recall, because it was 5 years ago, they were pretty much almost back to back. It was enough time for me to say, hey, get up, somebody's shooting the house, him say no, and then they started again, and he got up.
And then you said you noticed the blue lights once you turned the TV off. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Just real quick. You said it was roughly 30 seconds.
Or less, yes, sir.
And so in that 30 seconds or less, y'all were inside. You have no idea what was going on outside at that point.
No, sir. We went to the front door after that and to see what was going on, cracked the door open, and looked out.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate it. Have a good day. Probably next witness.
Judge, we would ask this prize
Pretty good, ma'am. Pleasure to see you. Take care.
but scheduling wise, our next witness may take a little bit longer.
Okay.
Do you
Go
want
ahead and take a break at this point.
Yes, sir.
Who is your next witness?
Josh Payton.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and take a brief break.